Hey, Dr. Clark here with another video. This time we're looking at Laplace transforms, in particular impulse forcing via the Dirac delta function. Let's take a look. So when we say Dirac forcing or impulse forcing, what we're really imagining is maybe like a spring mass system where the spring's kind of bouncing back and forth. And instead of applying sort of a force over time, you do an impulse force. So like, whack it with a hammer or something like that, where it's sort of like an instantaneous force. Now, if you're wondering, well, how would you apply a force in zero time? Well, that's a good question. But that's kind of the idea of an impulse force where it happens sort of instantaneously. Okay. What we're going to do is try to figure out, well, what would the right-hand side, what would that forcing term even look like if we were going to do an impulse force? And what's going to happen is we're going to use the so-called Dirac delta function, which has this delta t minus t naught notation like that. So the t0 here tells you when that impulse occurs at. And then if you have a coefficient out front, it would tell you how much force is happening. So you can set it to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, even negative if you're pushing it to the left versus pushing it to the right. So that's kind of the notation we use, the Dirac delta function. This is kind of what it would look like if you had a solution happening here. So maybe you've got some spring mass and it's overdamped, so it's sort of decaying down to 0. And then at t equals 3, you tap it with a hammer and that sends the mass flying again. So you get continuity in position, but a discontinuity in velocity. So you get an instantaneous change in velocity here. And then, of course, the system's going to drag it back to 0. So that would happen kind of an overdamped picture. So this is what's going on. And what we want to do is figure out what would right-hand side need to look like if this was the desired solution. If this is what the solution should look like if you're imagining sort of instantaneously changing velocity. Okay, and now how to do that, well, that's going to come in the next video where we look at the main ideas. But that's what we're going to try to do in this section, is figure out how to do impulse forcing via Dirac delta. So we'll see you in the next video.